Now, when most people talk about portion control, they think about measuring out small amounts of food, using willpower to stop themselves from eating too much other food. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think the first thing you should do is ask yourself, are you eating real food or are you eating fake food? And the reason why you make that distinction is because real food is very, very different. It's almost like a completely different substance than fake food, and that impacts on the portions that you eat of it. Real food has very few calories compared to fake food, which is very high in calories. So obviously, if every mouthful that you're eating is stacked full of calories, portion control then becomes a big issue. A guy called Bruce Ames posited that hunger is the body's way of acquiring the nutrients that it needs. So it's like a kind of biological survival mechanism. So if you get all the nutrients that you need, your body feels full. And if you don't, then your hunger is prolonged as your body seeks out those errant nutrients. Real food is stacked full of nutrients, so you're going to feel fuller quicker. Fake food has hardly any nutrients, so you're going to be bound to eat more and more and more of it. This obviously has knock-on effects when you're thinking about portion control. Real food has fiber in it, fake food doesn't. Brown rice has fiber, white rice doesn't. So with brown rice, it's obviously the fiber is very chewy in your mouth and it takes a lot longer to digest when it gets to your stomach. With fake food, none of that happens. It just goes straight into your mouth, straight into your stomach. So because it happens a whole lot quicker, you don't feel as full. If something isn't filling you up, it's going to be harder to control your portions. Fake food, the taste and the mouthfeel has been changed in a science lab to be as attractive as possible. They changed the sugar and the salt and the fat content to create what's called a bliss point, a point at which the food is its most attractive, its most appealing, and its most addictive. Now, obviously, when you reach that point, it's going to be harder and harder to stop eating the food, which is where you're going to again see problems with portion control. So that's the first thing I would suggest. Are you eating real or fake food? If you are eating more processed food than you should be, the question then becomes, well, how do I swap? How do I get my food back on track and switch it from fake, processed, refined to real, whole and natural? I would suggest that you try the challenge. Now, in the old days, we would give you a food plan and tell you to get on with it. Some people would lose weight, some people didn't because they couldn't stick with the food. And those that did lose weight, some of them fell back because they found it too hard to stick to. Now, the new challenge has changed all of that because we're adding in recipes and we're adding in meal planners and shopping lists. And what that does is it means that you can now do the challenge, but you can keep eating food that tastes very, very good. So you don't feel like you're having to give up all the tasty food. When you combine that with the other elements of the challenge, the whole net result should be that your food will be brought back into line. You're going to start finding it more pleasurable to eat real food. Now, let's say, for example, that you do already eat real food, but you just eat too much of it. What would you do then? I would suggest to you to try intermittent fasting. Now, I've been doing it for about 5 months. It's basically, in a nutshell, where you stop eating early at night and you start eating late the next day. So a large period of your time you go without food each day and you put your food into a smaller chunk of time in the middle of the day. That's intermittent fasting. Now, what has it done for me? It's given me a real steely control over my appetite. I no longer feel like hunger is my master. I do experience hunger and I do enjoy when I eat, but it no longer has that control over me that it did before. That's what intermittent fasting has given me. Now, if you're coming on, or if you're watching this video because you struggle with your portions, which is another way of saying I can't control my appetite, and that is where I would say try intermittent fasting. It's the best thing I've ever done at controlling your appetite.
Get up, get up, get up, get up. Yeah, there it is. Nice.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about is called hara-hashi-bu. It's Japanese to eat until you're 80% full. Okay, now you would do that because there's a gap between your mouth and your stomach, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for your stomach to register that it's full and tell your brain to stop eating. When your stomach's full, you're going to keep eating. You keep eating because it doesn't tell you immediately that it's full. There's this time delay. So how do you get around that? You get around it by eating until you're 80% full. If you stop at 80%, what then happens over the next 15 to 20 minutes, you will become up to that 100%. It's like when an oil tanker is coming into shore or into port, you don't hit the brakes when you get to the harbor. You hit the brakes as you approach the harbor. So by the time you get to the port, you stop still. That's hara-hashi-bu. It's really, really effective at helping to control those portions. And if you want to see it in action, just look up the Okinawans. This is a Japanese, it's like an island off the coast of Japan. The most centenarians per capita of any other race or nation in the world. That means they're the world's oldest lived people live in Okinawa, Japan. They eat real food and they eat until they're 80% full. If you look them up on Google Images, you'll find that even at the age of like 90 and 100, they still look strong and vibrant. So that's my tips for controlling your portions. Are you eating real or fake food? Give intermittent fasting a good shot and hara hashi bu.